Welcome to Laser Focus, where I discuss all things laser cutting and engraving. In this quick tutorial, I'll show you how to paint fill engraved wood so that you can take your laser engraved projects from something like this to something like this. Now, there are a lot of steps in this approach, but they're all pretty easy and quick. This laser finishing technique is honestly mostly just waiting for things to dry, but the actual steps don't take long at all. Now, I've done a bunch of testing and trial and error to get this technique down, so I'm hoping I can save you some frustration by sharing it here. I'm also going to go over two ways to do the painting step. In the first one, you'll see I use these paintbrushes here, and in the second, I used this sponge tool. I definitely found pros and cons for each method, so be sure to stick around until the end to see how the two methods compare so that you can decide which one is right for your situation and project. Here are all the things you're going to need for this technique. I've also listed details and links for them in the description. For the painting steps, you can use any colors you want, but the one you're going to need for a base is white, so be sure that you have white acrylic paint on hand. Other than that, choose whatever colors you like for your project. I personally love how pearlescent paints look, so I was playing around with the Pearlex pigments shown here, but they're not necessary at all for this method. Any acrylic paints will do. The first step is to apply a background color to your wood if you're going to have one. In this case, I'm applying this black acrylic paint. This is the one I had on hand, but you can use any brand you want. Now I'm just giving this a good shake and then pouring some of the paint into a small container to work from. And I will be using this brush here. And now I'm just applying a thin, even coat of paint. I'm going to be doing 2 coats, so try and make it as thin as possible while still getting good coverage. You may also want to paint the back of the wood with 1 or even 2 coats of your background paint if that makes sense for your project. In my case, I just did the front. After this first coat, I let it dry for 1 full hour before applying the second coat. And then after the second coat, I let it dry for 8 full hours before the next step. We want it to be fully dry before moving on. And now the next step is to put on the first coat of shellac. I've tested a few things for this step, and this shellac works the best because it prevents the paint from bleeding in the later steps, and this is going to be really important later on. So I'm just applying 1 light coat. I would recommend doing this outside if you don't have a space with good ventilation indoors, which I don't. I'm putting on this cover just to keep out any dust or debris, and now I'm letting it dry for 1 hour. Okay, so I'm back outside for the second coat. I'm just changing the orientation here for better coverage, and then I'm spraying a second light coat. After the second coat, I'm going to wait a full 8 hours for it to fully cure before the next step. We're going to be masking the wood next, so we need the shellac to be solid and fully dry. And I'm just covering this again while it dries. Now we're ready to apply masking to the wood. Now you have a couple of options here. You can use painter's tape if you already have that lying around. I have found that if I overlap the tape, I get inconsistent depth in the engraving step. But if I don't overlap the tape and I try to line it up perfectly, I end up getting lines where the tape edges meet. So personally, I like using this wider roll of masking, which I'll link to in the description. So I'm just cutting a piece of masking large enough for my wood. I recommend not using kitchen scissors like I'm apparently doing here. And now I'm just applying the masking to the wood. Now you want to be careful here to get full contact. We don't want any air bubbles, so just start at one end and slowly put it down as you work your way across. It's like putting the screen protector on your phone. Now this is important because if there are any air bubbles, the paint is going to bleed into them in the later steps, and we want to avoid this. Now I'm just using the sprayer to make sure I have full contact with the wood. Next, I'm just cutting off the excess with an X-Acto knife. And now the wood is ready for cutting and engraving. Now, the next step is to cut and engrave your project. I'm not going to go into too much detail here since so much of what you do in this step depends on your design, your material, your machine, and your settings. But what I will say is that you'll need a fairly deep engrave. We're going to be putting down a few layers of paint, and we want the paint to settle into the engrave and stay there. Here's a close-up of the engrave I did here, just so that you can get a better sense of how deep the engrave actually needs to be. You're likely going to need to do some testing to find the right settings for this. Now we've got one last step to do before we're ready to paint, and that's to apply 1 more coat of shellac. I'm going to do 2 light sprays from 2 different angles to get coverage on those inner edges. This is going to help prevent the paint from bleeding in the next step. So I'm just doing the first light spray, and then I just waited a few minutes for it to dry a little, and now I'm just shifting the angle of the wood and then a second light spray. I do consider this 1 coat since I didn't wait for it to fully dry between sprays. We're just trying to get as much coverage as possible here. Now I'm putting the cover on again since I'm outside, and I'll give it 30 minutes to dry before moving on to the painting step. The first thing we want to do is apply a couple of layers of white paint so that our colors will be really bright and vibrant. I've tested this method with and without the layers of white paint as a base, and the white makes a huge difference. You can very easily tell the difference here, so I highly recommend 2 coats of white paint before putting down any colors. I've also tested 2 different methods of actually applying the paint, and I'm going to show you both of them here. I use this white apple barrel paint because it's what I had on hand, but I do recommend a relatively cheap acrylic paint because they have higher water content, and in this method, that turned out to be really important. If you find that any of your paints are on the thicker side, add some water to thin them out for this method. You want it to be pretty watery so that when you remove the masking later, the paint doesn't stick to the masking and come out of the engraved parts. Now you can see here that I'm using a dabbing motion, and this is because we have a lot of charring and soot still sitting in the engraved parts, and I don't want to drag that out because it's going to turn the paint brown. So I'm just lightly dabbing the paint into the engraved parts. After doing 1 coat, I let it dry for 1 full hour. Then I did a second coat using the same brushes and let that dry for another full hour. Now I'm going to show you the sponge method. Any sponge with this texture will work for this. You can just cut up a regular sponge into smaller pieces like this, or you can use a similar tool to the one I'm using. I found these at the dollar store. For this method, I just dipped the sponge into the paint, and you can see that I'm dabbing it into the engraved parts of the wood. I'm trying to make sure that I get paint on the inner edges of the engraved parts as well, which I found to be a little bit harder with the sponge, but overall the method was much quicker. I let these sit for 1 hour to dry, and then I repeated this method again for the second coat. Once I was done applying the 2 coats of white acrylic paint, I let everything dry for a full hour before moving on to the colored paints in the next step. Now it's time to paint with color. For the colored layers, obviously I used fire and ice themed colors, but of course you can use any colors you want. Now you can buy acrylic paints in a range of colors with whatever effect you want, like metallic, pearlescent, matte, and this will be the easiest way to get the colors you're going for and save you a bunch of time because you won't have to mix anything. They're just a few bucks at Walmart or even the dollar store, and you do actually want the cheaper brands because they're going to have more water content, which is exactly what we want. If you find that your paints are on the thicker side, definitely add a few drops of water to dilute them. Remember, we want them to be a bit thinner so that they don't dry in like a thick layer that peels off later when we're removing the masking. But we also don't want it to be so thin that it bleeds excessively between the masking layer and the wood. In my case, I just used whatever I already had. So I used this white pearlescent paint to add the shimmery effect to different colors, and to get orange, I mixed red and yellow, and then for the cooler ones, I mixed blue with the pearlescent paint to get these different shades. I also had these Pearlex pigments on hand and mixed some of these into the paints as well, which got me these really nice and vibrant colors. Now, these are not necessary at all. It's going to be a lot easier to just buy the colors you want, but sometimes it's just fun to play around with all the crafty stuff I've accumulated. The one advantage of the Pearlex pigments, though, compared to mixing paints with the white pearlescent paint, is that using the pigments keeps the colors vibrant since I'm not diluting them with white. This is how I got the really vibrant yellow and blue. If I had mixed the white pearlescent paint with these colors, they would have come out much lighter. The first method I'm showing here is the one using the paintbrushes. I used the same dabbing technique here as I did with the white paint. Even though we don't have to worry about charring now that the white paint is covering it and creating a buffer, dabbing it is still the best way to make sure that you get all of those inner edges and that you get an even coat. This first coat was using all the matte colors, and it's acting as a base for the next coat, which is going to be the shimmery colors. So you can see that I'm trying here to blend the colors in between. I am in no way an artist, so I was really just improvising here and attempting to blend the colors to get this gradient effect. The more artistic you are, the more cool stuff you're going to be able to do here. So I'm just taking my time here and making sure to get the inner edges of the engraved parts. And then I let it dry for 1 hour before doing the second coat. So this second layer is using the shimmery colors. I'm not sure how well it's going to come through on camera, but hopefully you get the idea. And so again, I'm just blending the 3 colors to create a gradual transition between colors. And then I repeated this process for the ice coasters and then left them to dry for 8 hours to make sure that they were completely dry for the next step. The second method I'm showing here is the one using the sponge tool. With this method, I just dipped the sponge into the acrylic paint and dabbed it into the engraved parts. It helps to have a good amount of paint on the sponge to make sure it gets into all the little crevices and also along the inner edges of the engrave. Because we're using a larger tool to put the paint on, I really only did one main color because I can't do a lot of detail with a sponge like this. This makes this method much faster. I was able to just quickly go in large chunks until the whole engrave was done. Be sure to check the inner edges carefully to make sure you haven't missed any. You can see here that I did try adding a bit of variation in the colors using yellow in the center and then red on the outside, but you will see later that this didn't really have much of an effect because I had already put the orange down. If I hadn't put the orange down in those areas first, I might have gotten a cool effect, but I probably would not have been able to get a good gradient effect without putting in a lot more time, and I really did want this method to be a quick option. Once I was done with this second coat, I let it dry for 8 hours, same as I did with the paintbrush method. It's time to remove the masking layer and get our first look at how everything turned out. This first set is the one that I painted using the paintbrushes. I'm gonna go nice and slow here. You wanna be careful not to scrape or scratch the surface, and also we don't want to peel the paint off with the masking by going too fast. This is where it helps to have thinned out the paint in the earlier steps. If the paint was too thick, the masking would pull it right out of the engraved parts during this process here. I'm also carefully removing all the little bits that tore off of the main masking piece. Again, being really careful not to scratch or scrape too hard. You can see here that there are a few white spots that bled through the masking on each of these. I'm not sure if you can see them, but we will fix these pretty quickly in the next step. And now these are the ones I painted using the sponge tool. Again, I'm pulling it off really slow so that I don't scrape off the paint. We're going to be sealing these later, so until then, just be careful when handling them. Again, I'm just removing all the little leftover bits. And you can see here that there are a few more white spots with this one than there were on the other one that I used the paintbrush on. And the same is true for the ice coaster here as well. But overall, they turned out really well. We'll quickly fix the white spots in the next step. In this step, I'm going to use some of the background color paint to touch up the white areas. Now for touching up, I just use this tiny paintbrush and I use the same black acrylic paint as before. And now I'm just lightly painting over these white areas, any areas where the paint leaked through or got along the edges. Be really careful not to go into the engraved areas. Just stay on the surface with a really, really light touch and a tiny amount of paint on the brush. Go slow and take your time with this. You might find that you don't even need to do this step, but I wanted to do it for just that extra professional finish. I did the same touch-up process for the two coasters painted using the sponge technique here, and these definitely had more bleeding of the white paint than the other ones, but it was still a pretty quick step. Now, if you didn't use a background color on yours and the raised areas are just unfinished wood, this is where you'd sand the top layer instead. A quick sanding is going to remove any areas with paint that bled through onto the wood. Just be careful to keep it just at the surface and not sand too deep, or you're going to lose the engraved parts. And now I let all of these dry for 3 hours, and now the last step of the process is to apply 1 or 2 final coats of shellac to seal everything in and protect the surface. So I'm back outside and just applying a final coat of shellac. So just a light spray on each, and then I waited a few minutes before changing the orientation and doing another light spray across each one. Now, if the thing that you're creating is going to get a lot of use or handling, I recommend 2 coats with a minimum of 1 hour of drying time between coats. I'm just doing 1 coat, and I put the cover back on and let them dry for 8 hours. And that's the whole technique. Here are the final results with the 2 methods side by side for each coaster. The ones on the left side are the more artistic ones painted with the brush technique. While I think these definitely look better, the ones on the right using the sponge technique also look pretty good. So let's take a look at the 2 different methods, and I'll give you a rundown of the pros and cons of each, and when I think it makes the most sense to use which one. So overall, the sponge method resulted in more paint bleed than the brush method, and therefore it also needed more touching up in the end. The amount of time that it took total to do the base coats on both coasters, which is the 2 coats of white, was 7 minutes total for the sponge method and 23 minutes with the brush method. This is a pretty big difference, but it's really with the colored paints where the difference really showed. It only took 7 minutes to do 2 coats of colored paint, which is the same amount of time as the white paint, so it's pretty standard that 2 coats of paint using the sponge method is going to take about 3.5 minutes per coat. But with the paintbrush method, it took almost an hour to do the fire coaster and half an hour to do the ice one. And that's a pretty big difference. And even with the extra touch-ups that were needed to the background color at the end, with the sponge technique, it still took a lot less time with this method because the touch-ups are generally pretty quick no matter how many are needed. I think the sponge method would scale really well. You could lay out many of the items that you're painting and use this method across all of them at once, which would save you a lot of time overall. On the other hand, the paintbrush method is going to take the same amount of time for each item that you create, no matter how many you do. So overall, I would say that you should use the paintbrush method only if You want to create something super artistic with a lot of detail. You're not creating at scale, meaning that you're not making many of the product, or you're creating something really high end that you're going to be able to sell for enough money that it makes up for the extra time you had to spend painting. On the other hand, you should use the sponge tool if you're a business and you're making the product at scale and you want a really quick method that still looks pretty good, and you don't plan to be artistic with the painting, or you have very limited skills like me. And that's it for this video. If you're interested in other finishing techniques, see the playlist linked here. And for the actual project tutorial for these coasters, see the link in the description below.